Hello, and welcome to another episode. And today we're going to be talking about modern day romance, why it works, why it doesn't, what's going on, how the world is changing, and where we're headed. I have with me two wonderful people, Dr. Ayesha.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Ayesha. I am a psychologist and life coach, and so excited to be here. Love the topic. Thanks for having me, Rohit.
Also have with us Devashish.
Hello, Rohit. Hello, Dr. Suneja. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so with that, let's get started. What's going on in the world today? We seem to see so many different versions of relationships, people struggling. We see men and women at odds. We see a lot of stuff. And I thought, Devashish, we'll start with you. You're an actor, you're in LA, so you're right in the heart of things. And I think you might have a better understanding of what's going on. Please tell us.
Absolutely, Rohit. Thank you for letting me start. I believe the dating marketplace, the sexual marketplace, has been kind of ruined, and that's probably due to the internet and social media as well as dating apps. Before you would approach someone in real life, you would have that face-to-face connection. You would be able to feel the things that can't be seen through a screen, that can't be interpreted through a picture. So it was a much more real interaction. Now people are swiping right to find love. People are looking at just a single picture, and if that doesn't align with someone they're attracted to, then they don't meet that person. And that's not what love or attraction or dating is about. And what's happening is called the 80-20 rule. 20% of men are getting 80% of the women, and that's creating a lot of frustrated single guys who have never experienced love, who have never experienced intimacy with a woman, and that's creating a lot of problems in today's society. How do
I
you
also
guys feel
come
about it?
across a lot of anger. If you look at all that's been happening in our politics, it's been largely men who have been angry and upset. I mean, of course, it's coming out on the government, but I have a feeling that when people don't get their needs met, when there is a lot of frustration internally. Now, I know they may have political issues as well, but I have a suspicion that it has a lot to do with emotions. I hear the statistics are really high for the amount of men who haven't had sex, let's say, in the last 1 year. And I could imagine that if you're in your 20s, that must have quite an impact on your state of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's again due to the social media and the online dating aspect. And I think what you're referring to is called incels, involuntary celibates. A lot of men who don't know how to communicate with women, who don't know how to attract women, and a lot of women who have an inflated sense of ego. They receive hundreds, if not thousands, of messages on social media, on Instagram, and that gives them this false sense of superiority, or that makes them think that there's really thousands of guys who want their attention. And then when they meet that actual person in real life, they think they're too good for that person. Because look at my phone, I have 80 guys who want to go out with me. But the internet isn't real life, and real life isn't the internet. So it's creating a delusion amongst women, and it's creating a lot of anger amongst men. And um, yeah, I think it's kind of reverting back to the old days before. I think there was harems. The biggest, strongest, most powerful, or richest men would have many women, and a lot of men wouldn't reproduce with any women. That's been the nature of existence for a long time. When the institution of marriage was implemented, it gave a lot of men who may have not had a wife or a partner a stable partner, and it created families, and those families created stable civilization, and that's what our civilization is based on: healthy, strong families, and that's not really being perpetuated in today's society, so it's causing a lot of problems.
So what it seems to me is that what you're having is a few men having all the women. This is what I'm hearing from you, and this is what I'm
Yes.
hearing from everyone, in fact. And as a result, it's giving rise to these players, these men who maybe have had 150 women in the last 1 year, and the remaining guys haven't had even one or two. And as a
Yeah.
result of which, there's this very distorted thing going around. Dr. Aisha, what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you.
So, the first thing I'm thinking is these men that have all these women, I would love to hear how fulfilling these relationships are, right? Because we just naturally think that quantity is somehow more, is better than and than quality. And so the fulfillment, the satisfaction, the safety, the desire to be really seen and heard and validated, if you really have a good partner and you have someone that really is moving towards some of those qualities, then I'm not really sure why there would be such a need to have so many partners. So that's just one part. But the other thing that I think Devashish said that I thought was really interesting was this kind of like this 80-20, and women having this delusion. And I think that yes, I think women definitely, the standards for women for a date have changed so much over the years. You know, used to be, I don't know if you remember this, but it used to be a movie and dinner. That was kind of the, established date pattern. It was like you have some conversation, you have a meal together, you break bread, and you get to know each other. And then maybe there's some entertainment involved. But today, women say, like, he's going to pick me up on a helicopter, he's going to take me on a yacht. And so the standard for just a first date isn't getting to know each other. It's how do I impress everybody around me and put photos on social media that show that I am this valuable, that this man went to this extent to woo me. And that's the problem for me, is that those unrealistic standards are creating a lot of disappointment.
Another thing that I've come to realize is that women as such are starting to find that they want a man who is powerful, who is dominant, who is in charge, who is in control. And that's led to the Andrew Tates, and it's led to that breed of men where there's almost a toxic masculinity. We seem to be moving in the direction of either you're a complete loser, which is for most men, or you are one of these guys who's like a playboy and he's got his harem of women, as Devashish was talking about. And those, it seems to be like what is it in gambling where the winner takes all, right? And
Right.
that usually becomes the more powerful, more dominant, more aggressive male. Is it possible that we are reverting back to an aspect of our biology that no one has been looking at? The fact that women want someone who is in charge, a leader. And then what does that do to all the feminism, and what does that do to all the idea of men and women being equal? We've tried to live by those ideas, and I think it has led to a lot of men buying into that and becoming very beta, kind of toning themselves down. So now we're starting to see two extremes. One is the man who's tried to be kind and nice and sweet and kind of betaized or feminized himself. And then you have the rise of the women who've become very masculine. And now they want a guy who's even more masculine than them. So he's got to be this
Right.
rich dude, who's very powerful and strong, who can choke her and who can hold her in a certain way and take her to the fanciest of places. We've got this weird thing happening. I want to hear what you guys think about that.
Oh yeah, I think like say I'm a six. Back in the day, I would just date another six, right? And we'd pair up and we'd have children. But now women who are a six want a guy who's a nine, and they don't realize that that guy who's a nine has 10 other sixes he can get with. So why would he commit to that one woman? So it is a matter of, I think, delusion on the women's part, and then I think it's just I don't know how to explain it, but men have forgot how to be men. They don't know how to approach women. They don't know how to court them. They don't know how to be masculine. I mean, if men are naturally attracted to a feminine woman, that's just biology. Then wouldn't it be that women are attracted to a masculine man? But you don't have to be an angry, misogynist Andrew Tate kind of man. You can still be respectful and kind and gracious and still exude masculinity. So I think it's the both of the sexes need to be need to kind of look at themselves and see what they're missing. And also I want to say this, yeah, women's expectations have gotten very high because of their delusion. So it's not enough for a guy just to have a nice car and a nice house and a regular job. He has to be the top 5 or 10% of men to get their attention. But oftentimes that woman isn't the top 5 or 10% of women. And another thing is, women want to have their careers and have a job, and they want to sleep around in their 20s. And then when they're reaching the, 28, 29, when it's getting to that time to have kids, that's when they want to settle down. So it's just a lot of guys are like, why would I date you now? You ignored me in your prime, and now that you've slept with all the top guys, now that you've had your fun, now you want to come to me. So it's creating a really bad situation, and I'm not sure how it's going to revert back to normal anytime soon.
We need your help, Dr. Aisha. Come on in.
Yeah, I'm just kind of going back to, the woman's perspective and thinking about what women are looking for. When I said, the first date is on a helicopter, I meant a private jet. Sorry, not a helicopter. But I guess what I'm saying is this level of excitement is not sustainable. When we think about attachment, what really brings people together, we're hardwired for connection and attachment. We're all hardwired for secure connection and secure attachment. But what happens when we are just putting on this persona and we're being fake, whether you're a woman or a man? Then there is no real connection that's happening. It's all fake. It's all a persona. And when that facade finally, falls, I hear women all the time say, he seemed so wonderful and so exciting in the beginning. And I'm thinking, well, tell me about this excitement, because when you think about secure attachment, which again is someone, I just want to explain secure attachment really quick. For men, a securely attached man is responsible, dependable, reliable. He does what he says, and he says what he means. And for a woman, a secure attachment is, my needs are important, but your needs are important too. How can I be there for you? How can I support you? But also, you don't have to read my mind. I will tell you what I'm struggling with and where I'm upset or what I'm, not okay with. So there's this real need that we have for excitement. And so when I talk to women and say, what are you looking for, they'll go back to that very extreme standard of, like 1% of the population of men, and they'll say, I want, excitement and romance and this incredible experience. And so there's these very high highs, and then there's these very low lows when these men stop responding or ghost them or move on or find somebody else. And I'll say, well, what does this look like? What does kind of like this relationship in the middle look like? And they'll always use this word, boring. So to women, secure equals boring. And the highs and the lows of, he will whisk me off and then he dumps me, the highs and lows actually look like excitement. And so you think of any form of addiction. This is what addiction is. We're addicted to the highs, where no one's ever addicted to boring. So I think we have to really look at our relationships and what are we really wanting in a relationship, right? Do we want to be crazy in love, or do we want to be secure and happy and understood? And do we want to know, like, how do we resolve conflict? How do we move to the next level? How do we feel unconditionally loved and heard? These are the things that I think we should be talking about, not about the exciting Instagram moments.
I really find that we have moved from substantial, nutritious, healthy relationship to eating cotton candy all day long. It's like eating the unhealthy food all day long. And clearly you're going to get sick with that. That doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody. It's not fulfilling to the men. It's not fulfilling to the women. It is all around, it's just not working out. And I think that we're down a very disastrous path, because it's a path that is full of depression, anxiety, fear, and all kinds of, weird things that arise from it. Misogyny on one hand, feminism on the other hand. It's not healthy. None of it is healthy. You've got women who want to be as powerful as men. If the man can do it, I can do it too. Well, hey, wait a minute. The biology tells you very differently. Women cannot do what men do, and men cannot do what women do. A man cannot reproduce. He cannot give birth to a baby. A woman, when she's faced with danger, she'll move the stronger person forward. Hey, please, protect me. She wants the man to open the door for her. She wants the man, when she's having the baby, to protect her and take care of the child. Why? Because that's our biology. That's how we're hardwired. And it's really hard to hear that, because we've all been indoctrinated in the ideas of feminism and equality. I believe we are equal, but we're equal at a spiritual level. We are not biologically equal. And in terms of our achievement, that really comes down from one person to another. I don't think I can equate myself with any other man, and I don't think, or I can equate myself with any woman. None of us are equal. The whole idea of equality is utter nonsense. Right? We are all different, but at the core, At the level of our DNA, at the level of our soul, yes, we are very similar. And maybe even at a soul level, you could even say we are the same. But the fact of the matter is, we've got to accept our differences. And if we stop accepting our differences, we'll land up in this mess we're in. This really has happened in the last 50 years or so. But for thousands of years, we had societies and cultures and civilizations that thrived on the differences, that recognized the differences between men and women, and
Mhm.
made that work, in a way that
Yes.
was truly sustainable over time. Where we are at right now is not sustainable. So let's move from the problem to the solution. Where do we go from here? What might be some suggestions going forward?
Maybe a re-indoctrination of more stable and tangible ideals, like the idea. First, second, third wave feminism, I support completely. Like you said, at this core level, we're all equal. I think men and women are inherently equal, and we should be given the same rights from the beginning. But this last few waves of feminism, it just seems that it's just meant to maybe put men down. It's maybe meant to humiliate them for all the atrocities they've committed in the past. But it doesn't move forward women at all. At their core, women want to be loved. They're feminine. They're beautiful, and stepping into a man's role will only hurt them in the end. It raises their stress levels. They're not able to be that nurturing, caring being that they are at their core. So it's we're giving women freedom to be themselves, but we're pushing them to act like men and be masculine. So maybe re-indoctrinating or reintroducing people to our biological gender roles, introducing them to what we're both good at inherently, and pushing them in that direction. I'm barely 6 feet tall. I'm not going to say I can be the greatest basketball player in the world. Maybe I could based on my skill level, but there's people a lot faster than me, taller than me, stronger than me, and I have to accept that, right? Maybe I'd be better off playing golf. Maybe I'd be better off playing soccer. These are just the realities. So
Yeah.
we just need to be a little more honest with people and push them in a direction that's naturally beneficial for them.
What happens if we don't? Where are we headed? Where are we going to land up if we don't do this? What's brewing underneath if we don't do this? If we don't start finding another way, like between, this toxic masculinity and the masculinization of women, we seem to have, a huge gap in between that needs to be filled in, and it's time to explore that. It's time to find
Well, you
solutions.
see it. You see it with the birth rates dropping. We're not reproducing at a rate that can sustain the population, so marriages are failing, the divorce rates are increasing. So I think you see where it's leading.
Yeah, I think what Devashish said was really important. He said, we can go back to our biological and not, I'm not talking about reverting back to who we were as a species because we are here to move forward. We are here to evolve and become better. But if we can actually look at like, so who is helping men and women kind of figure out their natural intuitive characteristics? Well, it's actually men and women. If you look at the research, what women struggle with, like let's look at women entrepreneurs, right? Women business owners. They have fantastic ideas, they're creative, they're innovative. Women are naturally very innovative and have incredible nurturing capabilities. But if you ask a successful, smart, intelligent entrepreneur woman and you ask her kind of like, where are you struggling, she'll say, my self-esteem is impacted because of leadership roles, for me to lead, for me to have this way of managing people. That's kind of where I struggle, but I'm really good at nurturing, I'm really good at creativity and innovation, I have ideas, and but it's the leadership role that I feel like, am I good enough, am I capable, can I do this, I feel like a fraud, I'm trying, but I don't really feel like that's my strong suit. And if you ask men, the research shows that men say, I got that. Leadership, no problem. Leading a team and management, no problem. What is their issue? They say being vulnerable, being real, talking to people, interpersonal relationships, vulnerability, empathy. I don't know anything about that. That's where I struggle, but they're covering that up and they're not being honest about that. So research shows that both genders struggle with each other's role. So why aren't we helping each other out and saying, hey, what I know intuitively, I can lend to you. What you know intuitively, why don't you help me and show me how you can, that how I can do that. And that will come with honesty and vulnerability and being real instead of pretending that we know what we're doing when we're clearly failing.
Aisha, what if we were to now take that macrocosm that you brought up in the workplace and bring it down into the microcosm of the home and the relationship? In the home, you start seeing that, where women will sometimes bring that leadership role that they might have at work and bring it back into the family dynamic or the relationship that they have, and then be very frustrated because they're trying to get this guy. I've seen so many images now of women trying to domesticate the man, trying to tame him, trying to make sure that he can fulfill her needs, but the man is feeling like he's been completely just like he's taken his power away from him, and that's the only way he can maintain that relationship. So there seems to be a big problem with the power dynamic that occurs, and there's always this battle that happens, especially with new couples, until they can find a balance. But sometimes that balance is skewed in the way of the women trying to be more the boss and in charge. You have this whole thing of the boss babe, these women who are very powerful, they've got it together in their workplace. But then when they come back into their home, does a man want to be bossed over? And what happens to him if he is? When he feels that way, is he able to be a man? And how satisfied is the woman if he takes a subservient role to her? How satisfied does the woman feel? And what does that end up doing to her? Does she end up staying in the relationship or now losing all respect for him and wanting to move on? Because what I can see is that the traditional roles that were there for thousands of years, where men took the leadership in the family, in the relationship. Now, it doesn't have to be from a patriarchal place. It doesn't have to be from a dominating place. But it can be from a place of being in charge and then leading the way. When there's a leader, there also has to be a follower. There has to be a certain dynamic. We have to look at, is today's way of doing it working or not? And maybe we need to modify both the past and the present to arrive at the future, a better working model of relationship for the times to come. What would that look like?
If you ask men what do they really want in a relationship, any relationship, and this is not just intimate partner relationships, but really any relationship, what are they looking for? The number one word you'll hear over and over again is respect. And if you ask women what they need from their partners, and this is emotional, physical, sexual, financial, they'll say this word, safety. And so we have to really look at if those are our core needs, very different for each gender. Women are not looking for respect. I mean, yes, they'll say, be respectful to me, but their core desire is safety because they cannot open up emotionally, physically, sexually, unless they feel safe. And men will not make a woman feel safe unless he's respected. So I think you really hit something there, Roy. Like,
Wow.
they're
That so
dependent on
nails
each
it.
other. So a man who's disrespected can't create safety. A woman who doesn't feel safe can't respect the man. So until we figure out how are we giving this to each other, we're kind of stuck.
Yeah, I think this is a conditioning and a propaganda issue because this is mostly a Western issue. Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, and Western Europe. If you go to Eastern Europe, South America, parts of Asia, normal gender roles are still alive and thriving. So we've introduced these concepts to the Western world, and we see where it's taken us. So I believe the solution is simple: just revert back to how things were maybe 30 or 40, 50 years ago, because those
I don't
countries and
know
those
if we
communities are
can. I
thriving.
don't know if we can.
Yeah,
I'm completely
Pandora's
with
box
you
is
on the
open.
fact that, it's working out there, but it's also working in a sort of oppressive way. So let's also face that. Having grown up in India, I've seen that, it can be oppressive. You can have men who become patriarchal and dominating and controlling in a way that is not necessarily healthy. But we don't need women to now become the new patriarchy. That's not going to work either, right? We don't need women to create, or a matriarchy, if you want to call it that, and have men become the subservient race. This is not going anywhere. Why can we not find a balance that instead of a patriarchy or a matriarchy, that we start to recognize that we can move between these things. We can have the men as leaders, but at the same time be respectful of women and not, start controlling and dominating and trying to put them down as the Andrew Tates of the world have been trying to show men to do. I don't think that is a healthy model going forward. That's a
Right.
regressive model. And I
Right.
definitely
Right.
feel that we need to stand up to stuff like that. But nevertheless, it's bringing up a really important point. And that point is that we can do this better. We don't have to go back to the past. We don't have to go to in the direction we're going, but we can come up with something that is actually even better. So I just want to encourage everybody that's been listening here today, and all of us, to really collaborate on our minds. Maybe in the comments, write down what your thoughts would be. How would you create this model of relationships going forward? Because we're all looking for that ideal partner. But why do you look for a partner? Because you want a relationship. And if you want a relationship, then you got to have a relationship that works. So what's your idea? I'd like to invite everyone on the panel and in our amongst our listeners to write in the comments what you think would be the best way forward. I think if we all put our minds to it, maybe we can start a new revolution, a new way of thinking, and a new way of loving. What are your final thoughts on this?
I think for me, the word that comes up over and over again is partnership. We are not looking to be dominant. Neither gender is going to actually succeed, I believe, in having nurturing, real, loving relationships unless there's a true partnership. And so I think a partnership to me equals both people, and I'm talking about men, women, men and men, women and women. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just, it is two people that come together and say, can I be honest and vulnerable? Can I use this relationship to
How
grow?
do you distinguish partnership from equality? I think that's a big distinction to make as well. Does partnership mean equality?
No, it doesn't necessarily mean equality. It just means that both people's needs are getting met, because in a partnership, people can have different needs, but as long as they feel that their needs are getting met. And I'm not saying that, it has to be equal, because equal isn't always what we need, right? I need something very different from my partner. So am I open and listening to what he needs? Is he open to listening to what I need? And once we get honest and real and vulnerable, I mean, I think half the problem is we have such a problem even expressing our needs. As women, we use a lot of stonewalling. We get quiet, we shut down. I know I do. And so, men, how good are they at expressing their needs, at being vulnerable and real? I think it starts there. The conversation needs to start with how honest and how vulnerable are we about expressing our needs, so that our partners, first of all, even they have an inkling of what to do, what to say, how to be there. And for me, that's where it would start.
Yeah, because this problem exists both with men and with women. I mean, men also feel, hey, my needs are not going to be met. She's not going to understand. Or I've asked many times, let's say in the sexual arena, I've asked many times, she's just, every time she's pushed me away, shut me down. So I guess my needs are not going to be met. I might as well just go masturbate, go watch some porn, go, get busy with some hobby. But my needs are not really going to get met. So I think it's really important that along with asking for what we want, that, like you're saying, Ayesha, we need to listen to what the other person is saying. Vulnerability requires a space of listening. It requires the other person to really pay attention and really strive to meet each other's needs. I think it's a great point you're bringing up. It's not about equality, but it is about vulnerability, and it's about really truly trying to understand each other's needs. What a wonderful point. Thank you for that. Devashish, your chance. I'm going to end with you.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're right. Going back on what you said, we don't need to revert back to traditional gender roles, and we don't need to keep going along this path. But I think the key would be to live and love more consciously. So, I didn't choose to be a man. I was born this way. You didn't choose to be a woman. You were born that way. And so it's not. I'm not trying to dominate you. I'm not trying to put you in your place. I'm just, doing what comes natural to me. And I think when a woman is expressing her needs and being vulnerable, she's doing what comes naturally to her. So I think just being more conscious of the fact that, hey, this isn't a woman and I'm not a man. We're both just human beings. We're just both souls looking for love, in this short amount of time we're on this earth. And let's really just strip away all these labels and these conditions and this avatar, and let's just really, like you said, listen and treat each other just as autonomous human beings and love each other in that way, instead of creating all these labels and listening to society or whatever. We're just two souls on this earth for a short amount of time, so let's make this work the best way we can.
And I think that's a topic for us to explore going forward, is how do souls love each other? What does it mean to love yourself? What does it mean to love another from the place of that soul? That is the place where we all connect. That is the place of who we truly are. And I think that's the place where love prospers and blossoms the greatest. I think if there is a new paradigm of love, it should be from the level from the deepest level of who we are, the level of the soul. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you everyone for being here today, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.